I have the great pleasure of speaking with Luigina Ciolfi, who is Professor of Human-Centred Computing at Sheffield Hallam University. And the Institute for Discovery is co-hosting this webinar today with Assistant Professor Marguerite Barry and the UCD School of Information and Communication Studies and the UCD Human-Computer Interaction Group. So, Louis, how are you doing today?
Hi, Patricia. I'm very well. I hope you're well too.
I'm great. Thanks, Louis. First question for you today, for our listeners, is where are you and what's keeping you sane during the lockdown?
I am at home in Sheffield, in my kitchen, dining room, study, workroom, whatever it is these days. And what is keeping me sane? I guess trying not to work all the time, spending time with my partner, also keeping in touch with friends and family, making sure everybody's doing well and is healthy and not feel like we're too isolated from the rest of the world.
I think everybody's trying to do the same thing. So in relation to your work, I'd like to speak to you briefly now about that. And I suppose, what is it about human-computer interaction that makes you so passionate about what you do?
Human-computer interaction is quite a broad discipline. So people looking at, new cool technologies that give people new ways to interact with computers or kind of invent new situations and so on. I'm more interested in the kind of human experience of technology and trying and represent that in the way we design systems and applications, and also try and involve end users in that design process. So I'm really passionate about the idea that we can all participate in making those decisions about technologies that are really going to shape our everyday life. So I think it's that constant dialogue with end users, communities, but also developers, designers, that keeps me really curious and interested and passionate about working in HCI.
Wonderful. So COVID-19 has changed, I suppose, so much in the world. And what has it changed for your own work?
I guess one of the biggest challenges has been working on projects that have to do with cultural heritage and museums and technologies that are used there. A lot of the work that we do would tend to involve community groups, visitor groups, and a lot of the events that we run, especially co-design events, take place face-to-face, often in museums, or we go and also observe how museums engage communities this way. And obviously with museums and cultural bodies being closed to the public, it's been a huge challenge to rethink our research, try and keep those conversations going online, although it's a big challenge, as you can imagine. It's also a challenge to think of what will happen after. So museums might reopen, but the way we actually go visit them might be very different. So again, it's all about planning for the future and what we can do next that makes sense and is what we want to do at the same time, keeping everybody healthy, really. So I think that is probably the biggest challenge that I've been facing for my research.
Okay. And I'm sure our listeners will have a lot of questions about the future for museums. And so please, listeners, please don't forget to submit them via the chat function at the bottom of your screens. But I'm also wondering, so we're talking about, I suppose, challenges, but what any exciting or unforeseen opportunities arise out of COVID-19 in your work?
So cultural heritage technologies is not the only topic of my research. I do work looking at how people do their work outside of traditional workspaces like offices. So usually it could be, cafes, co-working spaces, planes, trains, but also working at home. And obviously we've all become pretty much home workers in the past few months. So unexpectedly, I find my research strangely fashionable. And it's given me a lot of food for thought in terms of what is it to work from home and what is it that people experience managing being somewhere that is not designed for work in the vast majority of cases. Of course, there are exceptions, but also managing other things, and how technology plays a strange role between being professional at home, but also keeping in touch with family and so on. So it's been an unexpected opportunity to actually keep studying things like that for me.
Wonderful, and I've got lots of questions for you around that, but I'm going to save them till the 10-minute chat. Last question for you in our first kind of 5 minutes is interdisciplinarity. Does it play a strong role in your research?
Absolutely plays a huge role. I think human-computer interaction by definition is quite interdisciplinary. When you put together the human, the kind of the soft sciences looking at that, and computer science and engineering as well. But in my work in particular, is very much at the intersection of disciplines. So I have a mixed background myself in psychology, social science, communication, and computer science. And now I'm working with designers, software developers, but also with experts in heritage studies, for example. So obviously, I think it's a challenge to bridge across these disciplines, but it's also a great opportunity to learn from teams that are so varied, and I'm learning all the time. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah, wow, thanks so much. So we've got loads of questions coming in, Louis, and we'll try and get through them all in the next couple of minutes. But just first one, it was just very intriguing when you said that your research centers around, working from home, and it's an unforeseen opportunity. But have you done any research or any comment on this whole of blended home life, blended work life, and the idea of them both merging into each other? But I'm almost talking about work merging into your home life, and it's become quite acute. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I have done work on that with a colleague here at Hallam, Ellie Lockley. We ask people questions about managing work life, not just balance, but also blending. Yeah. And it turns out that people do a lot of extra work to keep, work out of personal life, because obviously we all need personal life that is protected, time with our families and so on. But it's also work to manage personal life into work too. So the two things tend to blend. We use digital technologies for all kinds of reasons today, from hobbies, passions we have, to professional tasks and roles that we have. So there's always this process of planning what is that you're doing at any point. How is your time allocated to work and non-work? And the really difficult thing is to come up with models or recommendations that apply to everybody, because in reality, people's lives are hugely different. Their circumstances are hugely different. So I think it's going to be a huge challenge for those who design, for example, applications for working on the move or working from home, to allow for customization that people can make and try and manage things in a way that suits them, their families, their role. And there's huge challenges, of course. And I think we're all experiencing that, really. Even in this kind of strange world of Zoom calls, sometimes life intrudes into work, but we have the other way around as well. So it's really difficult to decide that the working day is over and I'm going to turn off the computer, especially if I know that I'm having a Zoom call with a friend or with a family member. How do I keep out other notifications that might bring work into it again? So I think we're all learning an awful lot about that, especially now that everybody is in that situation, or at least in our sector, because I'm looking at people who work in knowledge professions, so do a lot of their work online through digital means. And as I said, I think seeing this on this scale is giving me a lot of food for thought, also in terms of how home workers are no longer the exception to be accommodated, but everybody's kind of trying to play around each other with it.
So thank you. So I have so many questions. I'm going to try and move through them. What can museums and cultural institutions do to engage with more people online? What do you see in the future for digital culture?
So it's a huge question. We could talk very long time about it.
We could talk for an hour, but you've got probably 60 seconds.
I'm not a super expert on online engagement. A lot of my work has been really about being in museums and doing interesting things there with, physical objects and artifacts and technologies as well. But I think the challenge that I feel is really important, I think, bridges being there and also being online. And I think is a way to having meaningful dialogues with people. So not just presenting their content and telling people what they have in storage, what they have in exhibitions, what is the history, but asking questions about what is it that culture and heritage mean to you, and try and mediate some interesting discussions and conversations. We're seeing today that heritage is not uncontroversial. We've seen some quite notable examples in recent weeks with the whole debate about who gets a statue on the city square and what that should say about that person that is represented. What does it represent? So there are very interesting discussions to be had around culture and heritage, both online and on site. And I think we could use digital technologies, if they're well designed, to do it in a really sensitive and meaningful way, to allow people to express their views, their emotions, their values, but also try and see other perspectives as well. And I think that is a huge challenge. And I think that we need to also do it in a way that is a bit more meaningful than just, commenting under a post on social media or pressing a like button. I think there are interesting roles that curators and exhibitions designers could have in actually facilitating dialogue that is meaningful and not just a kind of knee-jerk reaction to things.
Yeah, and actually even COVID-19, somebody has said to me before that COVID-19 is almost accelerating change. So, it's how they cope with that as well. Everything is accelerating so fast and evolving so fast. So I see the issue there. So next question for you. How can people's working memory cope with all of the digital tools and tasks expected of them in modern workplaces?
So people are more skilled and competent than sometimes they judge themselves to be. Obviously, there is a lot of additional information, a lot of additional demands to pay attention to, and it's overwhelming. And I think there are basic mechanisms that we put in place to cope. We filter things, we make decisions in terms of what to prioritize and what to leave in the back burner. It's not possible to deal with everything in the same way. This is probably gonna change a little bit as we become more used to coping with the degree of demands that we have, also the degree of connectivity that we're expected to give. I think we're all learning, we're all coming up with different strategies. So in the same way, we had strategies before when, a lot of kind of work interactions were face-to-face, we will develop them for online as well. I already know some really interesting approaches people use, for example, to protect their time. And for example, in shared online calendars, what is it that they share with co-workers and how they signal that they need time to do, for example, creative work, where they need to be left alone and concentrate. So I think we are all developing this new skill to actually manage this. And it's not something, though, that is going to happen in a week or a day or even a month. It's going to take longer time. Hopefully, what we're doing now in this kind of situation that has pressurized all of us to invent ways to deal with it is going to be useful in the future as well to actually help us manage this. And I think we need to really understand each other, that not everybody can pick up everything really, really quickly. We need to be more understanding of these different circumstances. But we'll develop the skill to manage this in a way that we can cope with.
Okay. So Louis, we've about 6 more questions and 2 more minutes to get through them. So I'm going to ask you as many as I can, but just want you to be aware of that. So there's some very interesting ones, and I really would love your opinion, albeit short opinion on some of them. So the majority of AI assistants are with a female voice. So, and there's lots of errors and glitches associated with that and lots of limitations. And is this an issue of cultural heritage technologies? I mean, I think I summarized that.
Yeah, okay. So obviously AI systems have issues to do with stereotype representations, bias, and even issues of, what kind of injustice or inequalities are built into these algorithms. So in the way they affect the use of machine learning and AI in any domain, obviously it does have an effect in using them in the cultural heritage world. So I think we need to be really vigilant and careful about not perpetuating those limitations to try and make that technology be representative and not really reinforce stereotypes. And that's true really in any application domain. I know it's a superficial answer, but
no, that's it's great. Just here's another one for you. Especially in times like these, the arts have played a huge part in providing solace for people. Do you agree?
I definitely agree. So definitely the arts, but also I think the huge amount of work that cultural bodies have put into providing online material activities for people, for their children, for families, to keep engaged with something that, you know, uplifts you. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I really hope that this will be recognized, and I really hope that there will be support for the arts and culture to survive this really huge challenge that they're facing.
Absolutely. And so I'm merging two questions as your last, but so it ties in perfectly with what you just said. The cultural heritage sector. What is your view on the future of this?
So as I said, I think the future is really about talking to each other, talking about what is heritage, what is it that we value, what is it that we decide to preserve for future generations, and what do we learn from it. So in my view as an HCI researcher, really is about using digital technologies in a way that supports this, and also trying and make this technology not just impose a model of dialogue, but enable forms of dialogue that everybody feels comfortable with and represent the huge variety of people and communities that want to engage with culture and heritage. So that's my hope, that the sector will move in that direction and that the technology sector will support that and also maybe evolve itself in support of that.
What a lovely way to finish. We're completely out of time, and I just wanted to say thank you so much to Professor Luigina Ciolfi for the most fascinating discussion today. I could have spoken to you all day, Louis, and thanks to everyone for joining in. So thank you so much, Louis. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Great. And to our audience, if you'd like to sign up, check out zoomforthought.ie, and also check out or email discovery@ucd.ie. We run these sessions weekly. So thanks to Louis again, and thanks to everybody, and have a great day. Thank you.